My name is Emil Sinclair. The story I am about to tell is the record of my intense struggle to become myself. My childhood was clearly divided into two worlds. One was the bright world, represented by my father's house. It was a place where everything was orderly and clean. It was a refuge of parental love, rules, prayer, and moral teachings. I believed I belonged to that bright, warm world. But outside that door, a completely different, dark world existed. It was a chaotic space of grim rumors whispered by maids and workmen, the noise of loud taverns, theft and fights, and incomprehensible, secret affairs. I feared this dark world, but at the same time, I felt an intense, inexplicable curiosity toward it. The two worlds were right next to each other, yet the boundary between them was stark. When I was 10 years old, I crossed that boundary into the dark world for the first time. While hanging out with the neighborhood kids, I wanted to win their favor. I especially wanted to impress a rough, strong boy named Franz Kromer. So I told a lie I never should have, a fabricated heroic tale about stealing apples from an orchard. In that moment, the atmosphere turned cold. Kromer saw through my lie. He grabbed my shoulder and began to blackmail me, claiming the orchard owner had offered a reward for the thief. He demanded money from me. From that day on, my bright world was shattered. Kromer became the devil who ruled my life. He tormented me every day, demanding money. I couldn't possibly tell my parents. Consumed by guilt and fear, I had to steal money from my parents and break my own piggy bank. Every night was hell, and Kromer's whistle was like the trumpet of judgment, driving me into terror. I felt completely banished from the bright world. Into this hellish time, Max Demian appeared. He was a new student at our school, but he didn't seem like a child at all. He had a maturity that made his age impossible to guess, and a mysterious gaze that seemed to see through everything. He was always alone, but he never looked lonely. Instead, he seemed to possess his own steadfast world. One day after school, Demian approached me. Then, out of nowhere, he asked me about the story of Cain and Abel. I naturally answered as I had been taught in school. Abel was the good victim, and Cain was the evil man, cursed by God. Then Demian quietly but firmly offered a different interpretation. He said that perhaps Cain was simply stronger and braver than others, and that the weak, who feared him, might have branded him as evil. And the mark on Cain's forehead might not have been a brand of shame, but rather a sign of courage and distinction, announcing him as a special and formidable being. I felt as if I had been struck in the head. Demian's words completely shattered the boundary between good and evil that I had believed in for so long. Demian noticed the existence of Kromer, who was tormenting me. He had me confess everything that had happened. And a few days later, a miracle occurred. I don't know what Demian said to Kromer, or what happened between them. But from that day on, Kromer didn't even dare to cross my path. He avoided me, and I was finally liberated from that hell. I was saved. But strangely, I became even more afraid of Demian. He knew my darkest secret, and he had solved the problem in a way I couldn't understand. As soon as I was free from Kromer, I ran away from Demian too. I fled back into my parents' bright world, back into the safety of its rules. Time passed, and I enrolled in a boarding school. Entering adolescence, I fell into a great confusion once again. My parents' world could no longer protect me, and dark impulses that I had suppressed began to boil up inside me. I started drinking with friends and living a dissolute life, intentionally walking a path of corruption. I mistook this for being an adult. But the more I did, the emptier my soul became. Then one day, I saw a girl in the park. I had never even spoken to her, but I gave her the name Beatrice. She became my symbol of purity and salvation. I began to worship her in an attempt to purify my sullied self. I started to paint. I wanted to paint a portrait of Beatrice. While I painted, my mind became incredibly calm. But a strange thing happened. As the painting neared completion, the face began to resemble someone else, not Beatrice. The face held both masculine and feminine qualities. It was strong yet gentle. It was none other than the face of Demian, who had been dormant in my memory. And as I looked closer, I saw that the face was Demian, and at the same time, it resembled myself. One night, I had a powerful dream. There was a giant egg, and from within it, a massive golden hawk was fighting to break out and fly. When I woke, I painted the dream, as if possessed. It was a picture of a yellow hawk, pecking with its beak, to shatter the enormous, bluish egg from within. The moment I finished the painting, I knew intuitively to whom I must send it. I sent the painting to Max Demian. A few days later, I received a reply from him during class. It was a small, folded note. Written in a firm hand, it said, "The bird fights its way out of the egg. The egg is the world. Whoever would be born must first destroy a world. The bird flies to God. That God's name is Abraxas." Abraxas. That unfamiliar name pierced my heart. What on earth was Abraxas? I began to search for the meaning of that name. While wandering, I happened to meet an organist named Pistorius. By day, he played the organ in a church, but by night, he was a man who worshipped Abraxas at his own private altar. He explained to me that Abraxas was an ancient god who encompassed both good and evil, the divine and the demonic. He said that we believe only the good things are part of God's world, but the dark impulses and desires we ignore and suppress are also a part of us, and thus a part of God. To find one's true self, one must acknowledge and embrace both of these opposing forces. Pistorius helped me greatly in exploring my inner self, but I soon realized something. He too was trapped in his own egg of theories and old myths. He had shown me the path, but he could not walk it for me. I had to leave him and go my own way. As a university student, I was reunited with Demian as if by fate, and I met his mother, Frau Eva. The moment I saw Frau Eva, I felt as if my breath had stopped. She was the woman of destiny I had been searching for all along. She was the Beatrice I had painted, the face of Demian, and the form of the great woman who had appeared in my dreams to guide me. She was my mother, my lover, and my everything. She greeted me with a warm gaze, as if she already knew all of my wanderings and torments. Her home was home itself, a place that gave me perfect peace and solace. It was there that I finally learned how to be myself. Frau Eva told me that love is not something you beg for or crave from another. It is something that is drawn to you, like fate, when you yourself are filled with love. But that peaceful time did not last forever. The shadow of a great war was falling across Europe. Demian said this was the sign of the old world collapsing, the great destruction that would allow the new world we were waiting for to be born. The time had come for the old egg to break. War finally broke out. Demian and I were drafted into different units and sent to the front. One night, during a fierce battle, I was struck by shrapnel and collapsed. When I regained consciousness on the cold ground, I was lying on a straw pallet in a field hospital. And next to me, covered in blood, was Demian, quietly gazing down at me. He gave me a pale smile and said it was time for him to leave. He told me that if anything like Kromer ever came to bother me again, I should listen to my own inner voice. "Don't look for someone outside," he said, "but look within." That voice, he said, was himself. Then Demian kissed me. It was not just a kiss. It was the comfort of Frau Eva. It was Demian himself, and it was a complete union with myself. The next morning, when I awoke, the man lying in the spot next to me was not Demian, but a stranger. The war ended, and I returned to my life. The war left deep scars on my body and mind, but I was no longer afraid or lonely. Sometimes, when I look in the mirror, I see the face of my dearest friend and my guide, Demian. I know now. My path, the Demian I had to find, was always inside of me,